there you go. Big headline coming your way. The most unfortunate as well as Uganda hopes to pick medals from Tokyo. A member of the traveling team has tested positive. Now, what this exactly means for the team is the very reason we are joined by Mr. Don Rukare, who is the chairperson of the National Council of Sports. There he is. A very good evening to you, Don, and welcome to the press box.
Hi, Andrew. How are you doing? Good evening to you.
Fantastic. Well. We are living in strange times, my friend. How are you holding up? How is the family?
Family is good, but I want to contest that Mark was a swimmer. I don't know whether you're swimming in Ntungamo with you. We need to find out what pedigree of swimming Mark does, my colleague over there.
We can only sort that out in the pool, Don, you and I.
Yeah, Don, we're having a good interview. I don't think it's fair to start by throwing punches, my friend.
Freestyle 50 meters. Not anymore. I don't think Don can go to 200 anymore.
But I'm glad to be on the press box with all of you, and I hope you're all keeping well.
Yes, fantastic having you, Don. I mean, disturbing news for us. We do know you get COVID, you can heal, so that's not the issue here. The issue is a member of Uganda's team that arrived in Tokyo on Saturday has tested positive. You obviously are not going to tell us who this is, but our reports tell us it's a coach. Tell us, what is the situation with Team Uganda so far?
Well, thank you, Andrew, and good evening to all the viewers of Pressbox. It's good to be on. And I was telling Andrew Mwangushi that he should have told us that we should put on some makeup because he's looking quite good from where I'm sitting. But what happened, Andrew, is that, as you know, Uganda has qualified for the Olympics. We have 26 athletes, 13 girls and 13 boys, or 13 men and 13 women, in the disciplines of athletics, boxing, swimming, weightlifting, and rowing. And all these teams have been training in different locations, in bubbles. The boxing team was in Wakiso, the swimmer was in Africana, the athletes are in Buko, Kapchora, and Kampala. The weightlifter was in Kampala under strict conditions and SOPs, and the rower is in the US. And we had an agreement with two cities, Andrew, to host Ugandans pre-camp, because the games open on 23rd July. Yeah. Of this year. They were supposed to be last year, but because of COVID, they were postponed. So the official opening is on the 23rd of July, all the way to the 8th of August. So we had an agreement with two cities, Izimano and Tachishima in Japan, where our teams would go ahead of time, having been semi-flagged off on Thursday. They traveled safely through Doha to Narita in Tokyo. And then on Saturday morning, which was their afternoon, they arrived, and they were part of the protocol. They were subjected to 2 tests. And as you've indicated, one official was found positive, and the other 8 were fine, and they subsequently traveled to Izimano, where they are now, and we've been in touch with them, and they're doing very well. They're in good spirits. They're undergone additional tests. They're going to be being tested every day, which is for all teams. And as you indicated in your intro, Uganda is the second team to arrive after the Australian softball team. So the team of 8 is doing very well under Mr. Katende, and they're getting ready to start their training soon. The official who tested positive remained in Tokyo and is asymptomatic. He's also very well. We're in touch with him, and we believe very soon he'll be able to clear and join the team in Osaka. So what we're also doing internally is sort of reviewing our own strict protocols to see how we can learn from this and go forward. So that's where we are, Andrew, in terms of the team. We have other delegations leaving. We have about 4 more to leave in batches. Yeah. One will probably leave in July, another one mid-July, some of the officials 20th, and then the last team of the long distance will leave in August, closer to their events. Okay, quite interesting, of course. I mean, you definitely won't be in position to explain why someone was negative leaving Uganda and positive while arriving in Tokyo. I'm sure there's a bit of explanation to do in there. But why does this leave the team? I mean, psychologically, we know how killer the disease is. We know it is curable, but we know how dangerous it is, specifically for the sportsmen. Have you talked to the team? Do we know what mental situation they are in ahead of the games themselves? No, they're in a good state. And before they left, we had a pre-departure health talk with our medical team led by Dr. Nana Nachidu and others who gave them a mental talk about this. And from the reports that we're getting, Andrew, they're in good shape. They have almost a month to go because, as I said, the games will officially open on the 23rd. And we believe that they're in a good space. We've been talking to them before they left, during, and I believe in the build-up, they will be in a good place.
Mr. Don Rukare, the chairperson of the National Council of Sports, asante sana, and thank you very much for joining us and giving the nation that huge update. We definitely are wishing the team all the best, and we hope we can pick a couple of medals from Tokyo.
And I hope you can tune in to follow your Team Uganda once the 23rd arrives. We really hope through NTV you should be able to get Ugandans, including my good friend Mark, who is the semi-president of Ludo, to follow what's going on.
Asante Sana, thank you very much. Of course, the press box will get you as many updates as we can, Mark. I feel like Don is really...
He's hit me.
He's really out for you this year.
Yeah, and those are 2 punches, 1-2. I think
No, Andrew, there are no punches. Mark is a good friend. So
and I find it a bit unfair, but let's
But he's won this bout because there's a time when somebody gets you and you can't hit back. The thing, though, I wanted to say... because I've seen some other stuff on social media, just to supplement what my chairman was saying, is that for Ugandans to understand that the situation with COVID and everything is such that if people test positive, it's not necessarily because they've been careless. Yeah. It's not necessarily because the SOPs have not been followed or that a particular group or an individual is not doing the right thing. Yeah. Because I saw Ugandans are quick to castigate fellow Ugandans. There's a skepticism around how we organize at a high level. So I was seeing some things on the forums and I was saying, guys, that's not the case.
Everything was followed.
That's not the case necessarily. Because you just saw in the headlines, John Ram, the guy who won the US Open of golf, the previous tournament, he had been leading by 6 strokes and been thrown out because he tested positive. And these are guys who keep themselves in the bubble. They've vaccinated. They've done everything. And when we get to talking the Euros, Andrew, you'll see that Bill Gilmore, the midfielder, the young midfielder from Chelsea, who plays for Scotland, has actually tested positive and has been isolated. It happened in the NBA, which
and there's no bigger bubble than what is happening throughout the Euros.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can imagine. These things sometimes happen. And Uganda, only the second contingent to arrive, like Chairman Don was telling us. There are several other teams that are going to go to Japan from around the world. Expect a few more positive results.
Absolutely.
It's bound to happen.
Well, there you go. We shall continue following what is happening down in Tokyo, specifically for Team Uganda. So stick to the press box. We are proudly powered by DSTV. And go get yourself a DSTV bouquet as well. The Euros are on DSTV. We're watching all the action left, right, and center. Let me quickly cross over now to Andrew Mwangusha, who is giving us his own starter for the week. He couldn't make it to studio tonight. There he is. I think I should tell the viewers tonight that Andrew Mwangusha has decided to do that interview in his car. I don't understand how these things work, but he told me that his car has the best internet. I don't even know.
Oh, dear God. I thought we had a pact.
No, I had to throw it out there. Good evening, Andrew Mwangusha. I still don't think you have the best right, but we're hoping you have the best internet, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Mark. Good evening, Andrew. How are you guys? I'm somewhere in the country, but we are in a time where for security situations, you've got to be clear about whether to disclose or not. So for tonight, I'm somewhere in the country.
What is your starter for the week, my friend?
The start, of course, has got to be linked with COVID. Yesterday, there was a meeting that happened between some sports administrators, of course, with the minister and the prime minister. The sports people were trying to engage the government to see if they can complete some of the sporting action that's happening, that, of course, been put off for now for 42 days since Friday. From the look of things, from about maybe 30, 40 minutes ago, maybe that meeting didn't produce the desired results because it was mainly intended to at least allow the sporting action that is happening in the country that has just been paused since Friday to complete. Now, the good thing is those who are traveling out of the country, like the Olympic team, of course, already, and those that will travel later continue. The cranes as well, Sekafa, who entered camp, they're still in camp trying to ahead of the Sekafa that will happen in Ethiopia. But for the local competitions, that's the Uganda Premier League, the Uganda Cup, and of course the FUFA Big League. A circular has just come through from FUFA. Earlier they had announced that fixtures for the Premier League had been postponed indefinitely, but now they've added these extra 2 tournaments as well. So they have been postponed indefinitely, awaiting government clearance on when to complete the fixtures. For the Uganda Premier League, clubs like the top 3, that's Express on 58 points, URA on 57, and Vipers on 56, that had played 26 games. So they were left with 4. Other clubs had played 27, left with 3. So those will have to wait and see how the situation goes in the current lockdown and see whether the government will give them a go-ahead as the situation perhaps, we hopefully, normalizes. However, if it does not go according to plan or to wishes, we are likely to go back for the Uganda Premier League. We are likely, and of course the lower leagues too, we are likely to go back to invoking the 75% rule.
Yeah.
Article 18 of the competitions that says that should games have been played at least 75%, then we can call off the league. That's how Vipers won the league last season. We had played, of course, we had 5 rounds to go.
Okay.
Now we have 4 and 3. So that's way over 75%. So that could, and if that happens, then we could have Express winning the title for the first time since 2012. And of course, as you know, the FIFA third vice president, Nachwala Chinji, already made her case in a letter trying to ask FIFA, hey, you did it last season. What are you waiting for? So we wait to see that. But there's also an issue of CAF and when clubs can register for CAF Confederations Cup and Champions League.
Yeah.
That was June 30th, but it was moved to July 31st. And this lockdown goes all the way entering into August or late July. So we don't know because CAF requires FIFA to submit these names.
Okay.
And last season, it was the reason they gave actually a call on action. So talking to some UPL and FIFA officials, they said they'll give the league the best chance. But as it stands, I won't be shocked if the 75 rule percent is called upon.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew Mwangusha. And to that effect, we just received a tweet from Kitio Issa. We are very active on Twitter today. He says, now that all sporting activities have been put under lockdown by the president, what's Mr. Magogo say about it? Does it mean Express will be crowned champions of the season? I'm telling you, the Express fans are waiting for this one to see if they can take the championship finally. Big statement as well coming through from Andrew Mwangusha.
You cannot wait.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me quickly cross over to Mark Sally. Mark, your starter for this week.
First of all, Andrew, I am hoping that at a later date, since we are going into the Olympics, we'll be saying a little more about this. But I wanted very quickly to pay a tribute, a little tribute to some of the fallen sports stars. We've lost so many people over the last 1 month because of this unfortunate pandemic. But some of them have been sports heroes of ours in this country. So I wanted to say very quickly, Joel Otim, a Ugandan Olympian who actually represented us at the Barcelona 92 Olympics, an OB of mine from SMAC and all, is one of the fallen. He passed on, between our last show and this one, he passed on, succumbed to COVID at Magogo Hospital. And so he's a great Olympian and a great person who we lost. But I'll get an opportunity to talk about them a little more later. And then, of course, we have the grandfather of volleyball, Neko Moduse, also passed on, Ojara. And it was quite sad. So, like I said, at a later date, we'll talk more about them. Some people from rugby, Gerson Onono, the Sevoburu, Okema, Patrick Okema. We've lost some sports people over the last few weeks, over the last few days, actually, if I should say. And they have been part of a bigger group of Ugandans.
Back, it's still the press box. We're live from the Kampala Serena Conference Hall, and we are making sure we get you as many updates as we can. Uganda's #1 sports show every Monday at 10 p.m. We are proudly powered by DSTV, which is making sure you enjoy all the action from the Premier League and currently at the Euros. Do remember, this is a summer of sport. From the Euros, we have the Olympics. We have so much action that is coming in just before the new campaign kicks off as well in terms of the top 5 European leagues. All right, in studio already, the FIFA president and the Honorable Member of Parliament for Budiope East, Engineer Moses Magogo, has already joined us. There he is, masked up, making sure everything goes on smoothly. But before I cross over to him, let me cross over to the president of FUBA, Mr. Nasser Serunjoji. There he is. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on the show. First of all, good evening, and I should ask, how are you doing?
Good, Andrew. Good evening, Andrew and Mark. I'm doing fine, surviving, like everyone.
Surviving is the key word these days, my friend. You hold in there. But let's talk about the key issue. I mean, you lead Uganda's basketball. You sit in the biggest office. But the lockdown comes at a time when the Silverbacks are preparing for a continental qualifying championship. That is the Afrobasket. How hard has this been on you and the team?
It has been very hard, Andrew. As you know, we are struggling financially, of course. The Silverbacks haven't had and support financially. For us, all national teams should be a responsibility of our government. We submitted our budgets to National Council of Sports, but we are yet to get a positive response from them. But we hope that they come through, because these are national teams, and we expect government to, come in and support fully.
Yeah, of course, we're hoping government steps in and supports them fully. But quickly take us through the program. What is the program looking like? Where are we traveling to? When are these games supposed to be taking place? And what do these games mean for the national side in terms of qualifying for the main championship?
This is a continental championship, and it is very important for every team on the African continent to qualify for the AfroBasket. It is everyone's dream. It is the athlete's dream to be at the AfroBasket finals. So our plan is to travel this Thursday rather, to Cairo, and have a 10 days residential camp in Cairo, together with our foreign coaches, the foreign best players. Then on July 5th, we travel to Rabat in Morocco, then have a game on July 8th against Morocco. If we win that game, we automatically qualify for the finals, because we are one win away from the qualification. However, if we lose that game, we shall have to continue with our journey to Cape Verde, where we shall play a game against Cape Verde on the 15th of July. If we win, again, automatically we qualify. If we lose, then it's going to be between the three teams, Morocco, Uganda, and Cape Verde, and it will go down to the goal difference. But as it is, we stand very, very high chances, because for Morocco to qualify, they need to beat Uganda with a +8 difference. Then for Cape Verde, they need to beat us with a +6 difference for them to qualify. So we really stand a very, very high chance for us to qualify for the finals. And we pray that government comes through, because this is a journey that we started last year in November in Alexandria. We won our 2 games. We had another qualifier which was supposed to happen in Monastir, Tunisia. But as you're well aware, we suffered the fate of COVID, and we were not able to play those games. But we cannot afford to pull out at this moment, where we have already, invested time and money. So it is important that government comes through to support this team, to enable us travel and complete this qualifier.
Finally, Nasa, before I let you go, I'm not sure I can have all these details on air, but the new cabinet was sworn in today. Have you had a discussion with the State Minister of Sport, Honorable Hamson Obua, on this? Is this something that is being followed up by government at the moment, or it's a try and error situation for you?
It is not a try and error. We formally submitted the budgets. I have had a discussion with the minister, myself, one-on-one, and I have had a discussion with NCS. They have not said no, but they haven't said yes at the moment, because of course this has been the same story. Each time we are in for these tournaments, we find these hardships, but eventually government comes through, and we pray that even this time they will come through. The Honorable Minister was waiting to be sworn in, which happened today, for him to get the mandate fully to be able to push this through. So we hope that now that he's sworn in and he's, has the mandate as the minister, we hope that everything will go on very well.
Mr. Nasa Serunjoji, the President FUBA, thank you very much for speaking to us. And of course, on the press box, we shall closely follow the Silverbacks and also hope this can be sorted so Uganda can be represented outside there. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Have a good evening.
There you go. Thank you very much. As we continue seeing what will be happening at FUBA, let's quickly cross over now to FUFA. There is so much reaction that is currently coming in on air on our official handle, that is at NTV Press Box. We did ask you if you had any questions you wanted to ask the man holding the top office in Ugandan football, Engineer Moses Magogo. I must apologize from the beginning. I sometimes forget to add the honorable, so I'm hoping the discussion we will be respectful. Either way, first of all, Honorable, good evening and a warm welcome to the press box. And how are you doing amidst this pandemic?
Good evening, Andrew and Mark, and good evening, viewers, and so good Evening to Mr. Serunjoji, or Council Serunjoji, who is a well-respected president of a federation, and also my lawyer, I must mention.
Oh, is it?
But we are doing well. There are trying times.
Yeah.
And of course, on the side of football that we have the mandate to run, it is very challenging. But then it is also a situation where health comes first. As football, we have tried to do to follow the SOPs, and at the same time also to do a lot of preventive communication in support of the efforts taken by government. Remember, we came out and stopped the funds to attend, even before the guidelines from His Excellency the President came out. We had already gone ahead and said, look, guys, according to the situation, let us play the games without the funds. We test, and I've just looking at the report before I came to this show. We have tested over 4,000 different people at our cost, costing us almost 500 million Uganda shillings on our own, to make sure that players are safe when they are camping, and also in the competitions of the Premier League, the women, and all this. So it's a trying moment, a lot of money being spent into testing instead of buying equipment and managing the welfare of the people. But then health comes first.
It is what it is, yeah.
We led the issue of the vaccination
Yeah.
to make sure that at least every footballer who is licensed in Uganda is vaccinated, and I think we have done very well with the first dose.
Honourable, we shall talk football very shortly. I want to start off with the latest headlines. You were sworn in as a Member of Parliament, Budiope East. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Did you understand how big this role is? Did you understand how big a task you have on your table as a Member of Parliament?
I think I'm one person judged by my past, that I think about what I'm going to do. And for me to choose to go to Parliament, it was not a one-minute decision. I did a lot of consultation, a lot of preparations. It took me about 3 years down in the trenches in Budiope to be able to oust the person who was there, because he was a strong candidate. So I thought about what I was going to do. I have a plan of what I want to do for the people of Budiope, born and bred and went to school there. But at the same time, I think that it's an addition to sport. I can never dissociate myself from sport. I believe sport has a constituency as a Member of Parliament who can never keep quiet when there is an issue to talk about sports.
Which is why some people will be happy that you're in Parliament, because now you can talk to the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, and all these people about the laws that we need.
You can as well say the Speaker. You can as well just say the Speaker.
No, I was going, I mean... Okay, you won't talk to the Deputy Speaker. I fully understand that. I should have stuck... Imagine I didn't mean it.
But it's okay. It's very well. I mean, for us, it is still a value addition to sport, to everybody. There's nothing wrong with us being in the position we are in.
Okay, that you really got me there, I have to be honest. But then the reason I asked you that is, those are two very busy jobs, Engineer Magogo. Those are two. Football alone is a very, very busy sport in this country. There's so many things to do. Now you become a Member of Parliament. The biggest question being asked online is, are you going to have time, enough time for both jobs?
Yeah, I'm a well-organized person, and I chose to go there. I'm one person who will be up on my computer by 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm one person who puts time in what I want to do. But at the same time, in 2013, when I took over FUFA, at that time we had about 8 staff. Today we have about 60 staff who are running the federation. Our job, basically as the executive, is to take decisions. And the implementation, which is supposed to take a lot of time, is done by the Secretariat. And we believe we have such a professional Secretariat headed by Edgar Watson in the areas that need a lot of time. So we believe we have created a system. Football has reached a level where it needs Parliament more than a president who is solving issues of football. Because we have done most of the issues to do with football inside football. But then football now needs bigger things. We need stadia, we need money, we need regulations, we need the law. Now such things require us to go where they are supposed to be done. And when you come to Parliament, I know that Parliament is not a full-time job. And indeed, there are very many members of Parliament who are doing other things. Some of them are actually members of Parliament, but also ministers. And I think being a minister is such a busy job. But also they are still members of Parliament of their constituencies, and many of them deliver.
I'm still responding. I think you really got me on that. And I didn't mean it. But Mark, do you want to ask him something before we jump fully into the football itself? Or should I first ask you the fact that those are two huge roles. I mean, you're one of those who was thrown on the internet some time back that you are going to run, I think before he came into office, for the FIFA presidency. You know how busy it is. Being a member of parliament and doing that is where the big question is sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a busy thing. And but I think he's responded well to that by saying that he's created teams and all. The thing I've seen, though, in a lot of administration in Ugandan sport is that there's existence of teams on paper.
Yeah.
And then there's execution, decision-making, execution, and even day-to-day running being done by individuals, micromanagement, if you like. And I see it in lots of federations. So that's a challenge where Moses is going to have to walk the talk. Yeah. It's not, it can't be that you have 60 staff. It has to be that they're empowered to actually do what they're doing, and that there's a plan for it. Because not only from my journalistic experience, it shows that there's so many one-man shows in Ugandan sports administration across board, be it at club level, at federation level, in different spheres. But also then I have come to learn of these things, having joined the National Council of Sports as a member. And that is a challenge that I throw to Moses here, that federation heads in Uganda cannot pay lip service to the issue of structures and empowerment. Okay. Yeah, because because there's so many of them that actually do. And there's a term that used to be coined around Ugandan sport about briefcase federations and things like that. You know that it has been there for a long time. And that is because of the way many federations have been around for a long time. Yeah. Having sat through, being educated through National Council of Sports and the people who have been there much longer than I realized that there's been a lot of improvement in the running of federations at structure level. Yeah. But there's still work to do.
Well, some people are accusing Engineer Moses Magogo of running FUFA as a briefcase up to now, but we shall come to that very shortly. I don't know, you clearly are online, and we posted something for you to comment on questions. You're currently a hated man online. Most of the responses don't seem to be very positive. But before we jump into that, how much of a disruption has this lockdown had on the footballing activities? We've talked about the league. We can also talk about the Uganda Cranes. As FUFA, how much will you have to reschedule for the next 42 days? Well,
nobody knew what was ahead of us. If we had the lenses to see, probably would have done better decisions. Yeah. The challenge is that some people think of solutions when we're already there. We are also humans. I mean, nobody has the certainty of this thing called COVID. But for real is that we have 4 rounds of the Premier League, 3 to 4 rounds of the Premier League. We would have wanted, as FUFA, to finish the league sportingly, because it's the only fair way. It is not affecting only the champions, but it's also affecting teams that are going to be relegated. It's affecting the individual scores of the players who want to be the top scorers and all this. Generally, the statistics of the league would be complete when we have the games. We are making efforts with government. We've presented ourselves to government to say, guys, look, we believe that we are an organized group of people. Yeah. With due respect to all other cores of economic activities of this country, the football itself is run by a federation. We know we have to be found. We have rules. We have really shown that we respect the SOPs. If you look at, we have played 33 international matches since COVID started. And we have had only 7 cases reported across. As football, we have gone for the international matches, both tournaments and individual matches, and we have been able to go through because we have hired 2 full-time doctors to just look after. We have a house somewhere, I think in Kisas, where we take the cases that are picked up for isolation. Yeah. We create a bubble. And that's the challenge we had with Coach Kajoba and actually Karida Ucho, that these are means we have put in place to make sure that we keep the bubbles. And we have been able to go into tournaments, the under-20s and the CHAN. And so we're telling government that, look, we're a group of people that have control over our people. Yeah. We play in closed environments. We can still play the league, the last rounds. We need only 2 weeks. At the end of that, we can wait for the next 3 months as we plan to do the next. Yeah. And we hope that if government listens to us, it will be something very good. If it doesn't, we don't have the powers over that. We'll still come up and do decisions for the interim.
You have hired 2 doctors. The person you haven't hired is the coach for the national side. The last time I talked to you, we still had McKinstry in charge. After that, of course, we had press releases from the federation. McKinstry was, I don't know if the word is suspended or he was put on the side. Abdallah Mubiru takes over. Then later on, McKinstry says he's leaving Uganda. It's a bit confusing to the Ugandan public. Maybe they deserve an answer today. What exactly happened to McKinstry? Why was he put on the side and then later on thrown out? Was his performance? I don't understand.
The time we agreed for him to step aside was simply to assess and see if it was not him who was influencing, because we were not happy with the results of the team at that time. And that is our job. But at the same time, it was also giving us ample time to disengage in a very civilized way. Because we are a federation, we have disengaged with the coaches before. And for us, we believe we need a relationship with whoever has worked with us for purposes of ambassadorial role for the Uganda Cranes and Uganda as a country. So we took all that time until we reached a point where we agreed to mutually terminate an agreement. And I think this was good for Uganda. But at the same time, we are using this time also to make sure that when we engage a new coach, we bring a person where we have the same goals. Our goals are totally different at the moment. We are looking at transition, creating a new team that will peak at the time when we play the qualifiers for the World Cup 2026. I'm saying it will peak, meaning that we will compete for the 2022 World Cup. We will compete for the consequent Africa Cup of Nations, but we want a coach who is going to generate a new team that will peak when most of the players, 25, 26, will be at the time when we are playing the qualifiers of the World Cup in 2026. So that coach is not an everyday coach. So we have been a little slow, but we are very careful, and we believe when we come out with the decision, it will be the most correct decision.
Mark, as a football journalist, as a football lover, disappointed in the federation?
As a footballer as well.
As a footballer as well, yeah, as football as well. Disappointed in the federation, how they handled the McKinstry situation, and the fact that they have taken this long without announcing an official replacement?
At first, when the federation announced that they were asking McKinstry to step aside, there's some sort of Katebe situation and all, I was like, you either sack a man or you don't, or he's either there or not. And I was like, what are they doing? But under the circumstances, sometimes these are contractual obligations. When he talks about mutual disengagement, and you can understand that it was an issue of where they were looking for the best way. I think perhaps he hasn't mentioned the legal, but it must be also part of the decision to do that. But the fact that they haven't named a coach for me is not a problem at all. I don't have a problem with it, because Abdallah Mubiru, I think, is doing a great job in the interim. Yeah. And if he then wins the job over the long-term project that he's talking about, I didn't know about that either. That 2026 was the target for the World Cup. That sounds good, by the way. If Abdallah Mubiru then eventually gets named that coach, I'm fine with it. If they get something better, so be it. As you know, Abdallah Mubiru is somebody I've respected as a teammate. We played together in the league, and also because of the brand of football, he has been coaching at Police. Now, he has got an opportunity right now to prove himself as the man worthy of the job, for which perhaps the federation is looking for bigger people. Yeah. If it doesn't happen in the long run. Yeah.
And that's an interesting one, Mr. President. I mean, what do you make of Abdallah Mubiru so far? Ugandans are crying for a local coach. I've never understood the reason specifically why, but I think it's patriotism and everything. Well, what do you make of Abdallah Mubiru's first few games in charge?
For me, I think not only Abdallah Mubiru, but Abdallah Mubiru and Livingstone Babazi, because they're both in charge of the team. Of course, Abdallah Mubiru being the head coach, but I believe Livingstone and Abdallah and Fred Kajova in charge of the team, they have done a good job. There are so many other forces and factors that eventually give results that we see. A coach is just a factor, but there are also others, because this equation called the result has a player factor in it, has the coach in there, has a federation in there. Everybody has a role that he is supposed to be playing. And there's also a factor called luck. Football and everything else, it happens. So for me, I think they have done a good job in terms of trying to steady the ship. And we believe that whether they take the job or not, it is a credit that must go to them. But we have already mentioned that as FUFA, we have a project we are coming up with of fast-tracking 10 coaches to take them to the best schools that they can go to.
Local
and make
coaches?
Sure, yes, 10 local coaches. And we are going for middle-aged coaches who have a lot of future in terms of coaching. And our objective is that we want to take them to the best exposure. Some of these countries that have got local players, local coaches, for example, the countries like Senegal, these players also got a lot of exposure while playing professional football in Europe before played with some of the best coaches in the world. Unfortunately, we may not have such players here who got that kind of exposure and actually Ugandan and into coaching. So we believe that we can still catch up, take them to the best school, take them to the best exposure at our cost as a federation, and among those 10 players, those 10 coaches, Abdal and Livingstone and a few others are included. So it's not just about the coaching, but we believe that the coaches in the league, at the end of the day, the 10 we are targeting will make a base in the league, that by the time the player comes to the national team, it's not just about the coach at the national team, it's also the coach at the club level. Like Mike was doing a very good job at KCC. We got so many, in our view as a federation, to the club that's something different. But to us, there are very many younger players who were exposed, who are eventually growing into important players for the country. So if we had such projects at so many other clubs, we believe that we would get a lot more players.
You talk about players. Abdallah comes into a team now that does not have a long-standing captain in Dennis Onyango, which of course is natural for world football. Players are going to retire and there's going to be continuity. But there were so many headlines after Onyango had announced that he was going to retire. One of those was an audio that was running online, which of course had you as part of the subjects. I don't want to discuss that and bring Dennis Onyango back into this.
You're being very nice today.
Yeah, I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. But there was a general feel in the country that players feel sente muzibba, sente muzidia, tembawa sente zabwe. And the big question from that really is, do you have a problem with Dennis Onyango? Have you talked to him since that time? Did that audio have very bad taste on your side as a FIFA president?
Now, all of us have been students. And when we're in school, we talk about our teachers, we talk about our parents, the things we talk about them that probably wouldn't talk about them when they're present. And that doesn't mean that we don't like them anyway. And me who has managed the players at that level, I know the kind of conversations. They will give us names, they will do things. But again, the most important thing is for me picking results out of these players. Actually, to be more specific, Dennis is following this show. I'd actually offered to come along with me for this show.
That's very true. I've actually just been speaking to him. But
exactly. So there's no bad blood between us. We have done a lot of work, a lot of things, including outside football, by the way, in personal life. So people who wanted to build anything out of that, I think they won't succeed. Because for me, I think Dennis did a very good job for this country. We really gave him a platform. He really gave us the best. He won us some matches as a goalkeeper. And I've always said that for me, he's the best Ugandan player that we have had in terms of...
But isn't the content of that audio important to discuss? Because, the content is not just Dennis. The content is what we've heard from different players. They don't seem to be happy with it.
No. I just wanted to exhaust the fears of the people who thought that probably there would be bad blood. Like I said, we manage players, we manage children at home, and some of us, that's where we have excelled. So there's no bad blood. And we talked, like I said, a few minutes even before the show. He had actually offered to say, can I come along? And I said, well. And then later, probably, he said in the future he would be willing to come and give more light. But for me, that's not the most important thing. When we are in the dressing room, we have discussions. Very many never come out to the public. Some of them really very hot. But I liked this group of players that qualified us to AFCON 2017 and 2019. For one thing, is that we kept our things inside. There are a lot more serious things than what you had in the video. But the most important thing is that whenever we came out, people were happy. And we did our part of the bargain, and they did their part of the bargain, which for me was good. And I must mention that as FIFA and my particular administration, I've brought a lot of money into paying footballers. I told a friend recently that I was reading and I saw the Daily Monitor of the 4th of June 2007, the front page. And you're journalists, you know when it means the front page. We had just beaten Nigeria, and the front page was reading every player of the Uganda Cranes is paid 1 million Uganda shilling for beating Nigeria. Now we're talking about today where we pay about 10 million shilling if we beat Lesotho. So I brought in money, And I go on record, and I've said it before, there's no single player demanding a single coin from the federation. And I've gone on record, apart from the under-20s that have a situation that there's a bit of reorganization at CAF, so CAF hasn't been paying the monies, and this is where they're supposed to be getting their pay, but sooner than later, they will also be sorted. Even the sand cranes that went for the Africa Cup of Nations have been settled. So sometimes it is indeed true we delay, but depends on the cash flows.
And we can confirm the under-20s and the cranes on sand are not playing shitty football, as you said some time back. Which do you regret that comment?
No, I don't, because I meant it. And actually looked for the meaning of the word before I used it. I'm that very careful when I'm speaking to the public. My objective was communication, and you are communication people. When you want to communicate, you need to package your message in a way. It was something that people exaggerated.
Many found it disrespectful. Actually.
No, it wasn't. And some people put it onto the people. I talked about the football. I didn't talk about the people. I'm very careful when I choose the words I'm using. And when you look at it, the most correct English we know of is the Cambridge Dictionary. And if you check the meaning, it's very clear. It means unpleasant or bad. And that's what I was referring to. But anybody can choose the meaning or the way they want to choose. The most important thing is that for me it is unacceptable for a team to go and lose the way we lost in Chan. People don't remember the last time we conceded 5 goals in a single match. That is not
but maybe you should clarify it.
And just before that, it's not just about the result, Andrew. It's also the manner in which the players were conducting themselves before, during and after the match. They were unbothered that actually we are losing the game or we have lost the game. So for me, that message as the president, it had to come out very strongly. And I think the reason we are talking about is the way I packaged it.
Yeah, but maybe you should clarify to the footballing audience that them playing shitty football, as you called it, was not the reason they were not paid. It was...
The payment structure at FIFA is double. And in the same communication, at one point I'm saying we are going to pay these players. At one point I'm saying they shouldn't be paid. And people should understand that the payment structure at FIFA is bonuses and allowances. Bonuses are for performances. So you don't expect bonuses when you have not performed. And in the same video, if everybody played it from the beginning to the end, I was saying they're entitled to their allowances and they will be paid. And they've been paid 5.6 million shillings each player already. But the bonuses could not be paid because the bonuses actually consider the performance you have made at the competition.
I'm very sorry, Mark. I've kept you very silent. I'm going to bring you in very shortly to ask the questions you want. But we have got to go for that quick commercial break. When we come back, Mark Sally will be asking the questions. Andrew Mangusha will be joining in. Plus, we have a big debate to go through. The one of the elections. The football fraternity claims you are, for lack of a better word, playing around with the constitution of FIFA. And you are making sure everyone else is locked out for the presidential race. Mujib Kasule was on the show here. He thinks you're being very unfair. He thinks you're managing the federation from your own pockets and your own hands. And that's a very big debate. Are we going to allow other Ugandans to run for the top post? Honorable Magogo, are you a dictator? We're going to discuss that and more when we come back. It is the Press Box. I just remind you, we're live from the Kampala Serena Hotel. We're proudly powered by DSTV. There's more reaction coming in online. When we come back, the president answers more of those questions. I'm just going through our Twitter. It's buzzing. I'm telling you, everyone has a question for Engineer Moses Magogo. I'm sure you're online. Most of these are not pleasant. People don't seem to be happy with some things happening in Ugandan football. Do you worry about people not liking you? Is it a problem for you?
I think it's all about lack of information. Most of the people who are not happy may not be getting as much information in terms of facts as possible. And the reason we come for a show like this one, a big show like this one, is to interface. The challenge is that some people have predetermined minds about certain people and certain things. And some things we take them for granted because they have happened. For some of us who lived here and saw football before and are seeing football today, and we are not very many. There are very many people, 70% of Ugandans are below 30 years. People below 30 years may not have seen the kind of football when Mark Sally was playing and the rest of the people. There's been a huge transformation of football by my effort. And until somebody adds up these, we'll only look at it, a few basic things, elections and all this. We'll not look at a situation that we are not qualifying into final tournaments, not only for the senior team, but any of the team. And in my administration, in the last 8 years, we have qualified for 10. Not 1 or 2, 10.
You said 10.
Final tournaments of CAF.
Honorable, you said 10, but it's quite embarrassing that just the other day there was a chance Uganda wasn't going to host World Cup qualifiers and AFCON qualifiers here in Uganda. There was reports in the media that the St. Mary's Chitende, which is a private stadium, was going to be hosting the Uganda Cranes. Now, if we are making that many strides on the continent, then don't you find it embarrassing that back home we don't have our own national stadium that is approved by CAF?
Of course, and very many people are bitter with me. Some of the people who are bitter are thinking that why hasn't Magogo constructed a stadium? Yeah. Now, I think this is a bit unfair, that not anywhere in Africa or even in the world that federations actually construct stadiums. Not even clubs. In some countries, I know, in Italy, to be specific, clubs don't own the stadia. The municipal councils and the government own. So I think this is a challenge of infrastructure in the whole country. And I think the best way to finding solutions are multiple. As the FUFA, we can do one or two. But the challenges of facilities are from villages. We are talking about the stadium in Nambole, but you're not talking about the boy in Lungujia who must play football, who has nowhere to play football from. So the question is bigger, and our approach is to engage government on a bigger scale to ensure that Ugandans have where to play football from. And this is for all of us, not for Magogo. Playing from St. Mary's, I think we are fortunate that an individual, out of his own ability, out of his own money, constructed a private stadium. It is very, very embarrassing as a country. I must accept that. But then it's not about the name of Magogo, because those abilities are not anywhere, even in the developed countries. I think apart from England and a few countries in Europe, there is no single country that has a stadium constructed. Now at CAF, we are trying to generate a solution, and we are discussing this at CAF level. Why? Because we have challenges. We are saying every country must have a FIFA-approved stadium. And CAF and FIFA, we are trying to borrow money from a financer and make sure that the monies that we get in the consequent World Cups 26 and 30 are invested such that we can get the facilities now. I think this is something which is plausible. But on the other side, we're also doing a number of things in terms of trying to solve the problem. We are putting up an infrastructure in Kadiba, a very interesting infrastructure. If it's ready, it may not be for the international matches, but it will be part. So for me, the problem is not only the Uganda Cranes, even the clubs. Even the boy who is from Lunguja or from Masese in Jinja or from Gulu, we have no facilities. So it's a bigger problem than Magogo.
Yeah, but it's something we certainly must solve, Mark.
Yeah, well, looks like you're addressing the issues that have been controversial, and I have two of those that I'd like for you to clear the air here, so that also the viewers understand. When we talk, you've talked about the successes of the national team, 10 tournaments qualified and all. There's a lingering feeling within the football community at a lower level that you've not paid the same attention to the league as you've paid to the national teams. And one of the questions, of course, that keeps popping up that I hear is about the kind of sponsorship we have for the league. We have a long-standing deal with the television company, for which clubs don't seem to get that much money. So it is like we are tied down for a very long time, and we are not getting that much out of this deal. Tell us what went into this, us getting this kind of deal, and why we are tied down for this long, and what is the way forward here? Are there any changes soon, or is there misconceptions about how much money the clubs should be getting, and how we go in and out of deals like this?
I think, Mark, we need to be, that's again why I say maybe some facts are not, and we need to do a job as FUFA to give Ugandans facts. The thing is that when we signed that deal, there was a deal on table and no other option. Now let us start from that situation, that you have one option or nothing. So you don't have too many choices on your side. And the reason we don't have too many choices is that we have a piece of work to do as football. Now, sponsorship does not operate like how much money you need. It is how much value you bring on table to the sponsor. Until we have built value to the sponsor, is the way we can demand for the money that we need. It's not about how much is my cost in doing this job. When you talk to any sponsor, he's going to look at how much value are you adding to my business. Now, how many people are buying decoders simply because there's a league match? Until we teach our fans that they consume in reaction to what the sponsors are bringing to their love, and that is football. Now, that is a piece of work for us we need to do. It's not going to come overnight. It is a paradigm shift that we need to do. the value of the league will depend on the reaction of the consumers. And that's when you can ask for how much money. Secondly is that indeed it's not a lot of money. But like I said from the beginning is that we did not have 2-3 options and we chose that one. There was the option because we wrote to Azam, and Azam said, I'm not renewing. I've not gotten the kind of value I expected to be getting. Now, it remained on to us to find something. What we are speaking right now is that there's something which is coming. Very little money for a very long time. But this was, again, a deal breaker. 10 years or nothing. And most of the sports television rights are in 5s and 10s of years. The world over. Maybe people don't know. But if you check world over, these are the rights of television are signed over a very longer period. Simply because the person who is investing money thinks about the last years in terms of bringing back the amount of money. Right now we are getting about $680,000. Is the sponsor really making that money back because of specifically the league? Are we asking that question as well? Now, until we ask that question and say, but as Express, as a Vira, as Vipers, these are the people who are buying the decoders and paying subscription simply because there is a league match for them to watch, not because they have to watch the press box or anything else. Now, that is the value that we must create. So the people, the football public, like you're saying, must understand the sports economics that are involved in terms of these rights. And if we did understand, you'd be on our side that we've tried in the circumstances.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's the there's two things there that I picked up. One is that you said there's something coming. What is that? And then if we have a long-term deal that has tied us down, what are we going to do about it?
No, but we can always negotiate. And we have had a series of meetings with our sponsors. But I'm telling you that it still depends on the options that you have. And we are talking to different people. We are packaging football in different types because not all the football is taken. There is a lot of football that is not yet bought in terms of rights. We have the drum, we have the Uganda Cup, we have competitions we can create. You can see what we are trying to do at CAF, trying to do the Super League of the clubs in CAF, to try and create a competition that can also generate money. So, for me, so many things can come up, creating content that we can bring and generate more money if the private sector that would use our content to communicate their brands can buy it at the value we want.
There's a sarcastic comment just before I cross over to Andrew Mwangusha, if you can hear me. A sarcastic comment for you here from Sir Fabian Paves, who says, how ironic, Moses Magogo donning a Mercedes cap. Mercedes hugely dominated by Hamilton as Magogo does dominate the FIFA presidency. But I'm sure we're going to discuss that. Is Andrew Mwangusha on the line for us? So we can, okay, Andrew Mwangusha is not online. Oh, there you go. Andrew Mwangusha is on the line. The Honorable is here. Andrew, one question for you before we move on.
Why is he hiding?
For security reasons.
Hi, Engineer Honorable Moses Magogo. Good evening.
Good evening, Andrew.
How are you? Now, of course, Mark and Kabura seem to have exhausted everything. They are fully in love with you, and I'm enjoying the show from here. I have quite some questions, and the way no Andrew, if I don't ask all of them, he might not come back to me. So I think I need to ask all of them, and we get done with them. The first question is about the FUFA third vice president, Honorable Nachwala Chiyingi. She was elected unopposed recently for another 4 years. But there's been some controversy surrounding the process under which she came through. Previously, we've had the third vice president representing clubs voted for by the 16 Uganda Premier League clubs. This time around, FUFA released updated statutes with some amendments, and the previous statute that was 33 is now 34. And it says the third vice president will be voted for by the Premier League clubs and big league clubs. However, it's only the Premier League clubs that nominate. So those amendments are said to have been made during a meeting with the clubs where even FIFA big league clubs were invited, but they were not aware of what they were coming to do. So they found out, they were called on a Friday, the next day they voted, they were not aware that there was even voting. And those amendments were raised by the executive committee of FUFA, which you had. Maybe you need to enlighten us on when did that change, the voting process of the FIFA third vice president who represents the clubs? And then also in that 34 statute of FIFA, they mentioned professional leagues. When did the professional leagues start in Uganda? Because that's what Natural Change is now representing as FIFA third vice president. Is there any relation to the reforms that FIFA proposed, I think, March last year, which of course were up in arms with the clubs, where you proposed 12 clubs for the Premier League, and the clubs are up in arms? That's one question. It's quite.
Mangusha, you have to make your second question very short.
Process. Yeah, on natural change process and the professional leagues, who is running them, where are they coming from? Then secondly, I was checking in the FIFA ethical code. There's a code of conflicts of interest. Of course, we had some good news recently where FIFA and UBC broadcast the Uganda Cup. There was also some broadcast, I think, of the FIFA Big League and the regionals. And UBC was receiving production from FIFA. FIFA is helping, according to Sen, in a story at least we did in the Monitor, Ahmed Hussein, the communications head of FIFA. FIFA was helping with production, but you could not come through to name the company that is actually being contracted by FIFA to do production. And neither was there any bid in the newspaper for that company. But from what I gather, a one Faizo Musenzi, who actually worked with a company which you have a hand in, Mr. President, Pulse Portal, which started in 2013, and you're one of the directors. And that, if it's true, contravenes the FIFA ethical code of conflict of interest. Tell us, which company is this that is producing the games that are coming through at UBC? And then finally, I have another one that, this one maybe you just help us clarify. Still on the FIFA ethical code, there's someone contesting for top leadership and also being a member of a party that is in government. Well, that code, FIFA ethical code, asks for neutrality when it comes to politics. Maybe you can help enlighten us, because if that's the case, then you are a member of the ruling party, you are the FIFA president. Where's the neutrality there when we go politically?
Okay.
And finally,
Mangusha, how many questions are you asking?
I hope there's time to answer them.
Finally, this is from a Villa fan, and that's not me. This is from a Villa fan, and that's not me. Who knows Moses Magogo as a staunch Villa fan? And normally when the priest is at Villa, Moses Magogo comes through to, fight the fire. This time around, 2 years.
Okay,
Villa in limbo. Players haven't been paid for close to a year. Or if they've been paid, it's been, funds coming through. What is Magogo saying about that? So for now, that's about it. And maybe finally, you can also tell us why does he think him being in parliament and retaining the job at FIFA actually will make things move? If he weren't president at FIFA and at parliament, you mean his points wouldn't be heard in parliament?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mangusha. I think let's start here. We try and rush through them. He's asked so many questions, yet we still have some key questions to ask you. We start with the one of the Honorable Natural Change.
I think the questions took more time than the answer will take. The answers will take. Because it was, but I understand the questions because it's not the first time I'm hearing all this. I'm sure you took the count, so I'll follow you to remind me where I forget. The issue of, let me tell Andrew and the listeners and the viewers that FIFA is managed through a constitution, what we call the statutes. And when he's talking about FIFA ethical, actually there's the FIFA statutes and there's the FIFA ethics code. These are totally different documents. The only thing I'm reading from Andrew that I don't think he has read these documents very, very thoroughly. If he has, I'm very sure. And it's very important for Ugandans because these documents are all over the internet. So anybody, if you want, takes about 5-10 minutes. It would be a very good debate if we are discussing things that we have actually all of us had access to. The debate would be much better. The constitution of FIFA is amended in two ways. One, members propose. Two, the executive proposes. And in Ajuman, in the last General Assembly, which was in Ajuman, there were amendments that were proposed. And the constitution of FIFA was properly and legally amended to include the professional leagues and how the vice president is elected. So whatever has been done is actually in line with the FIFA constitution. There is nothing outside. If anybody is challenging it, there is a whole electoral appeals process that somebody can come to, and then the documents and the processes will be analyzed.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is even for me. That is for FIFA to answer. And if you look at it, I believe everything was done in accordance with the processes.
Okay.
Our constitution is very clear. It was amended accordingly, and our objective is, for us, we are in our strategy, the big league and the Premier League is the professional end of the game. And our objective is that even if a team is relegated, it can go to the big league and it comes back, instead of throwing them in the deep end of the amateur football and the way it is organized. And we believe that is the good thing for football in this country.
Okay, let's quickly move on to production of games. He seems to say you have a hand in a company that is producing games, and that whole deal was never advertised in the newspapers. And he talks about Pulse Portal. Do you have a hand in Pulse Portal?
I own Pulse Portal.
Okay.
And it is not the one doing the job. What is important to understand is that we are talking about a job which does not have so many people who can do in this country. As a matter of fact, there are not very many people who can produce football. There are not very many houses, production houses of live football in this country. If we might be talking at the moment, there could be one or two. So there is also that factor. The second factor is that this particular company has been doing production for FIFA since when Dr. Mulindo was the president.
But it's a conflict of interest. You have a hand in it, and
I'm
it's
not
getting
saying,
the contract.
I'm not saying it is Pulse Portal doing the production.
Okay.
I'm saying I own Pulse Portal. It has no business it is doing with FIFA. So we put it outside. The people who are doing this production have been doing this production way back when I was not even president. So if anybody wants the detail of that, for the interest of time, I may not be able to go into the detail, but the companies are different. Pulse Portal is my company. It's totally not doing any business with FIFA. The company which is doing the business, I do not have any control into it. And the two, we are fortunate that there are Ugandans who have invested into production. This production, you know, it used to come from outside this country. All the equipment used to be brought in from South Africa or sometimes Kenya. You have worked in TV, you know. So if we have somebody who is doing that, I think we should be actually crediting that we are watching live football of Ugandan football.
Let's quickly move on, Honorable, because, Mark, I'm sorry. Let's quickly move on because we're running out of time.
But he had other questions. That
The other question was how neutral you are according to the ethics.
Okay,
FIFA.
that's a very important question,
Yes.
Andrew. I would
You're
like
in
to,
NRM.
I would like to
Means
take,
you're not neutral.
I would like, that's why I'm saying that Andrew should read the statute. That statute is both FIFA and FOFA. And what does it say? Do not discriminate because of, and that's where the political affiliation comes in. And that's where religious, gender, and all these things are in one article. Now, Andrew has picked, and the people who think like him have picked out the political affiliation, but they have left other areas. For example, I'm a Muslim. So am I going to stop being a Muslim because I'm the president of FIFA? So being what we are does not stop us from leadership because we already something. You are going to be a man, you're going to be a black person, you're going to be, you know. So let us interpret these things for the easiness of the people. Actually, it is them who are breaking that regulation by discriminating me, who is an NRM. Actually, I'm being discriminated to take responsibility. So I think Andrew, that one should be.
No, but
I cannot take a decision. What is wrong is me taking a decision to disadvantage or advantage anybody in football, and I'm doing that on the basis of football. I mean on the basis of either religion or political affiliation or gender. That is what football talks about. Now, the way they want to implement,
I think the CEOs are employees of FIFA. Therefore, they are not supporting anyone else because you pay
I think
them.
there's an exaggeration here. The fact is, there are very many people. First of all, nobody has tampered with the rules. Let us tell the Ugandans the truth. These electoral rules were done in 2012. They have never been changed. The areas we are talking about, how elections are conducted, how people become candidates, they have never been changed since 2012. The good thing, Kasule was also one of the people who did these rules. And then I was not even president. And they have never changed. So when we say Magogo is manipulating the constitution, let us be specific what has exactly done. Because I have not changed the rules that are electoral. So for me, that is very wrong, and it shouldn't.
But it's manipulative if you give the people you're going to
I want to come.
Just 1 second. Yeah. It's manipulative if you're going to give the people you're contesting against very little time to have their papers prepared. In this very election, he suggests.
That's what I wanted to explain, Andrew, that I don't organize the elections. Elections in FIFA are organized in accordance with the statutes. And it's the same way they're organized in FIFA. The same way they're organized at CAF level. You know, People want to conduct the football elections like the normal elections outside. Football elections are done on a certain template, which is not even produced by us, but by FIFA. I'll give you the example. You are supposed to be nominated by 3 members out of 34. This was done in 2012. It's not a manipulation of Magogo. The electoral rules say that you are supposed to be nominated by 3 members out of 34. And if you cannot get the 3 members, then you start checking your popularity among the voters. When you start looking and say they locked them away, they hid them, I think we are being unfair, because the elections are organized by the electoral committee. This electoral committee is elected in accordance with the statutes. And they were elected. And the people organized, and they have not disadvantaged anybody. They opened up elections and they said, okay, whoever wants to come and stand, show interest. Now, the unfortunate thing is that there are very many people in football who can qualify to be candidates. Very many.
But they're locked out.
No, they are not. There are very many. They choose not to stand.
They're locked out because no CEO is going to sign their documents. CEOs are
Andrew,
paid by
I'll
the
come to the point of the CEO. But for the viewers who have been fed with a lot of lies, if you don't build this case from the point of understanding that the nominations are done by 3 members, that's a key point. Out of 34, you choose 3. And these 3, one should be a club, one should be an SIG, one should be a region. Now, these people are out there. They're not sleeping in my house. It is up to you, the candidate. If you are serious, the challenge is that the people who come up to stand are not serious people. If you are going to stand to beat a candidate of Magogo with the capital of football that have invested and made, you need to do your homework very well, because the people inside football are actually not complaining. They're okay. They have seen things. The people who vote understand where we have come from and where you're going. You might be speaking as a fan, watching from a distance, but the people who take the decisions, who look at the detail, understand where football has come from. So when you are given 3 people, three members to nominate, you choose. I had my brother Kasule saying, Magogo took all the people and they nominated him. Now this is another big lie, that they nominated him and could not nominate him because they have already nominated Magogo. Now we don't have a regulation
because
like...
some were told not to nominate him, I'm told as well,
But
by
if,
FIFA.
but if your voter is told not to, then this is politics. Maybe he doesn't like you. How can your voter who's supposed to say, they have told me, Andrew, not to support you? Is that really your voter? Is that true? Let us be real. 2, I want to come to the issue you have been emphasizing about the general secretaries. This rule was done in 2012, that the people to nominate on behalf of the member will be the chairman and the secretary. This was done in 2012. And now, as the FIFA, we came with the general secretary to help the regions. And the general secretary in the region is not only doing elections, is actually doing football. For the first time in Uganda, we have 8 people sitting. There's somebody sitting in a sorority. There's some doing football. Waking up in the morning to come and do football until 5 o'clock in the evening. Isn't that a plus? Now, the decisions in football are made by a chairman, and the secretary communicates them. That is how football is designed. Let me give you an example. I'm the one who nominates Edgar by regulations to become a CEO. And according to those rules, do you know the secretary of the electoral committee is Edgar? Now, this is how football, and it's done like that at FIFA. It's done. Now you're talking about
So the rules are just not fair.
Football people are always going to be fair.
Yeah.
Football is very different from the ordinary kind of politics. I can't be a referee of a match between you 2 people, and I'm supposed to be fair. So Edgar, who is supposed to be nominated by me, is the secretary of the electoral committee. It is done at CAF, it's done at FIFA. So for me, let us not run away. If you want to be a FIFA president, don't become a crybaby. Go out to people and ask for them to nominate you.
But Engineer Mark, again, you're coming next, I'm sorry. You can't say, don't be a crybaby. There are crybabies in the Ugandan football world today, for example, who are saying that you were called up by FIFA, given, should I call it a mini suspension, for being involved in the illegal sale of World Cup tickets. And some of your critics, maybe the crybabies I should say, are saying that tainted your image as a federation president. Do you think you have the moral authority to run Ugandan football after that scandal?
I think what is important to understand is that football is run on regulations. It's not run on sentiments. If you are saying whatever you are saying, quote the regulations. 2, it is very unfortunate that the people who quote the matter have no detail. FIFA has the detail of everything that happened. I've explained this on this show, on very many shows before. that what happened is that these people came out with 21 cases or charges, if you call them, against me. And they were all thrown out. In the process of the investigation, they found something totally different, which to FIFA is not something big. And the FIFA rules are very clear. For the cases they are quoting, you cannot even do the plea bargain that I did. It is in the FIFA rules, written. They ignore that part and don't explain it, that for the cases we are talking about, they could have not been managed the way. And I've come out to explain that what was found out, that I did not do my fiduciary responsibility to ensure that things are done by it, because it's the Secretariat which does this. And it was not done in 2006, in 2010, in 2014. And that is the responsibility, because according to football, you are the decision maker. You don't run away being a president from being a decision maker.
Yeah.
So the matter you are talking about would have not allowed me to continue being even part of international football. But I'm with the executive of CAF. I'm heading committees in CAF. So for me, the issue is not what they want it to be.
Yeah. Mark, we have one final question because we're running out of time.
Okay, the final question maybe I'll ask is, you are part of a very big group of federation heads and guys who run federations. And there's been the issue of funding, Moses. The fact that football and FIFA take a lion's share of the funding that comes out of government. So there have been questions here. One is on a purely sporting side. Is it justifiable that FIFA should get a lot more money than the rest of the federations combined? There's, of course, you've heard about the famous 10 billion that FIFA have, that FIFA have and get. And say if a budget like the last year's, which was cut from 25 to 17, means that the rest only share 7, then is it justified? Is this justifiable and justified? And one of the reasons, of course, they raise is results, the reason one being that you failed to qualify for the AFCON. But also, the second bit of it is the moral side. How do you feel about the fact that you take a lion's share and you see like Nasa Serojoji was at the beginning of the show crying?
Moses Mwanji the other day was saying
all the other federations are crying,
You know,
and you guys are okay. How does that sit
Mark,
with
it's
you?
very, very unfair that people don't understand the history of this matter. And in the interest of the time, we may not be having the proper time to explain the history of this matter. If you understood the history, you would appreciate what Magogo has done instead. Because what happened is that this money was not given to sports. This money was given to football from the beginning. And actually in that meeting, it came after our engagement with the head of state, which was our own mechanization to get. And when we were there, we were given the opportunity to discuss with the technical people in the ministry. And when we were called in the Ministry of Finance, and when we were called in the Ministry of Finance, we explained. And the instructions was FIFA to be football to be given 10 billion. Now, we got out of that meeting very happy. And we went back, and the people who were in the meeting were only football people and the Assistant General Secretary of the National Council then, Dr. Guel. We went back to Keith and the PSST and said, look, we are very grateful, but we cannot be the only people getting money. With the other federations that have not gotten anything. And these are facts. I've said them so many times. Nobody has disputed them. In our negotiation, we were able to get an extra 5 billion. Much as the Assistant General Secretary, Dr. Guel, was asking for 11, we were able to get 5. And the promise was, take this, we see how you manage money, maybe in the future, we can increase it. And that's how it became 15 plus the 2, which initially was there. That's the famous 17 billion that we get. Now, the following year, indeed, extra 9 billion was added. And that FIFA did not even partake to become 26. That was the following year in the promise that, okay, let us see how this is done. Now, the other point we need to go to, people don't understand how government, and I've started also to appreciate now, government works a certain way. Appropriation of money is based on factors that are known. Until you are part of the National Development Plan, NDP3, you are not supposed to be appropriated money from the consolidated fund. It's not an activity of government. Now what we are supposed to do is to put sport into being part of the activity of NDP3, which was already done. But we need to find ourselves into there. And now football is already part of that NDP3 because of what value it brings. Now to a taxman who is managing money, is looking at what value are you bringing. FIFA or football pays directly 1.5 billion in taxes a year. Now, as we are talking all of that, there is that which other sport is paying as much taxes? Now, to the taxman say, okay, if I inject more money here, am I not going to be making more money out of how many? Right now, FIFA is paying 4.8 billion shillings to people who are working for football, either players or coaches, 4.8. And these are Ugandans.
You're not paying ex-footballers, you're beating them at FIFA.
No, but we don't have to pay ex-footballers.
Mike the other day was beaten at the federation.
No, we don't have to pay ex-footballers because they're not doing an activity.
Yeah.
So for me, the 10 billion is justifiable. Just look at the economic activity. Around Nambole when the Uganda Cranes is playing. Look at the borderman, look at the hotel person, look at everybody. Now, which other sport is bringing this kind of business? So when you justify it with medals, we have also participated well in international competitions, like I've said.
Yeah.
When I play into the finals of the Africa Cup of Nations under 20, you may add so many other medals with due respect.
Yeah.
In terms of popularity, in terms of selling our country, which may not be as equivalent. So to the person who is appropriating this money, might be looking at what other factors are bringing much more value. But I want to sympathize with the council, with Moses Mohanj. I mean, these people are managing athletes and national teams for this country.
Yeah.
I follow boxing. I follow basketball. And I'm very proud when these people are doing well as a Ugandan. I'm behind the TV shouting. I think what we need to do is going back to government as a unit and say, government, look, we are sport.
Yeah.
But the moment you go back and say, football is there, I'm here, you lose the advantages.
We are running out of time.
Just 1 month. You lose one advantage that football brings, the numbers and the economies and the economics. But probably athletics will bring the medals.
Yeah.
And probably boxing will bring something else. So we need to speak as sport, and we go back to government as a solution, maybe to the younger people of this country.
We're running out of time, and my producer is shouting, I'm telling you, he's shouting in my ear saying I need to close the show. Very shortly we are going to show you.
I wanted to comment about that one at the end.
But we've run out of time. I have just one final question, and it's probably part of what we've already discussed, but just to wrap it up and wrap the show, do you think the electoral process inside FIFA should be amended? Because there's still a big field that so many people are being left out. And secondly, you're coming in for another term. What is the key? What is the key focus in the new term as we wrap up, Mr. President?
Big question. A few seconds to answer it. Very soon we are coming out with a plan of what we want to do as my executive. And when this comes out, I'm sure Ugandans will understand. There are a lot of new things that we are looking at to change the game. But 3 simple goals, we are calling it the hat-trick. One is making football the professional end of the game. Generate revenues and make sure that we can employ more Ugandans as athletes and also people working for football. The second area is to make sure we want to reach every homestead, that football is played in every homestead. The rich, call it the mass game. And the third one, of course, is excellency, where we are performing at international level, globally. That's where we are. But the details of how we are going to do that will definitely come out and share it with the Ugandans so that they can demand that of us when the time comes.
Should the electoral process be amended?
I believe the regulations have served football. And if you're asking for my opinion, being very stringent in terms of who stands and all that has helped. Because in the past, every time during the Obua time, whenever there was a general assembly, there was a vote of no confidence. The man used to survive votes of no confidence. When was he planning for football? Now, that has stabilized. Yeah. Today, we're enjoying sporting success on the pitch. And people don't understand that this stability, because of these regulations, has actually brought these sporting results. You may want this to be turbulent, but you also may be giving out. However, I still think that in one of the things we are going to propose is that let us have a discussion. Let us have an engagement. If there are any amendments and the football people want them, as FIFA, we cannot stop that. We want to listen.
Okay. There you go. I just remind you, we are trending #1 on Twitter. So thank you very much for everyone who has been following
here,
us.
We are trending.
Yeah, no, that's
and that is football again.
That is true, yeah.
#1 on Twitter. But I must thank the engineer. Thank you very much for coming. And for me, I said this as the beginning, without any tongue-in-cheek. We are very happy in Parliament. We honestly do hope you can.
It's going to be good for football. I'm telling you, it's going to be good for sport. It's going to be good for football. It's going to be good for the people of the Upper East.
Okay.
Yeah, that last bit when he said that let us go back together as sport. The lobbying for more funding and everything. That is where I wanted to go, because if he says he sympathizes with the other federations, I think they need to come together.
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder about the unity there and the genuinity of it and the goals, the targets that they have. Yeah, so they can lobby.
Okay, there you go.
And that is where perhaps he will serve football in Parliament.
Okay.
Not football, but sport. And I'm waiting to see that because the other day I saw a headline where he was saying I wouldn't be a good minister of sport, and I was saying, now what is Moses saying? I thought, shouldn't he be? She should care about the rest of sport.
I've got to wrap this one up. A very big thank you to Mr. Don Rukare, who is the chairperson of the National Council of Sports. A very big thank you to the football president, Nasa Serunjoji, for joining us on the show. Thank you very much to Andrew Mwangusha as well, who has been following us from the comfort of his car. Thank you very much, Maxwell, as always, the football president, Engineer Moses Magogo. Thank you. Wish you the best in the next term and also a good term in Parliament. We do hope now you'll have some time to appear on the show because you're quite a very, very busy man. Thank you very much to everyone out there who has sent in some tweets. We're still trending #1 on Twitter. Always, you make the show very, very successful. Thank you very much as well to DSTV for always powering the biggest show in the land. I think we should end with some highlights from what is happening from the Euros. There's been 4 games today. Just to remind you of the action, Austria has beaten